Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Chris Lukaup and I think it's time today to introduce you to my favorite nano fish, the celestial pearl Danio, or I always use the Latin names Danio margaritatus. This little fish comes from Myanmar and North Thailand, and we thought that in the beginning this fish is endemic to Lake Inle in Myanmar, but we found out that there's a much bigger distribution area. Of course, I will give you all the details that you need to know. I will show you the fish in like real nice footage, and but there's one little secret that I have about the fish. Always when I go to fairs or when I talk to people, they tell me, I have this fish too, but mine are very shy, I don't see them. Well, I trained with my fish and I see my fish very close. I even can feed them from my hands. So how come that they are not shy in my tanks? I have them in a 10-gallon aquarium. It's densely planted with moss because this is what they love. But I always, before I feed them, I go to the glass and knock a little bit the glass so the fish hears, okay, there's food coming. So I did this over 6-8 months and now I can feed them from my hands. Every time I go to the aquarium, they all come forward. So this is a little secret that I have. Just before you feed, knock a little bit the glass and the fish will come forward and you can watch them closely and have fun with them. So today, Danio margaritatus. Let's take a closer look. Keeping Danio margaritatus is quite simple. These beautiful fish do not have especially high requirements, and if you keep some basic things in mind, you will have a lot of fun with these interesting little guys. The celestial pearl Danio, also commonly called Galaxy Rasbora, shook up the aquarium world when they were discovered in 2006 near Inle Lake in Myanmar. At first it was assumed that it was endemic there, but some scientists found out later that the area is much bigger, and also they found it not only in Myanmar but also in northern Thailand. And I still remember in 2007 we already had them in the trade and they just skyrocket. When it comes to the size of the aquarium for the Galaxy Rasbora, like I told you guys before, I keep them in a 10-gallon tank with a lot of dense vegetation. But there's a lot of people that also said that they need at least 60 liters, that's about 15 US gallon. For me it works. If you want to give them more space, welcome. If it comes to the substrates, I would recommend a rather dark substrate. It can be brown or can be black, because the beautiful colors of these stunning fish will stand out and they feel better too, which adds to color intensity. I use the soil that I recycled from a shrimp tank. It was a shrimp soil, and over the years these don't buffer anymore, so my pH is around 7.5, and this is great for this little fish. Plants are essential in a tank dedicated to the Galaxy Rasbora. It's not important which species of plants you choose, because there's plenty and you can choose freely. In my view, it's important, however, to create several densely planted areas with fine-leaf plants, and in any case you need an area planted with moss, for example Java moss, as your celestial pearl Danios need a spawning substrate, and moss is perfect for this purpose. If there are no fine-leaf plants in the tank that reach up to the water surface, please make sure there are at least some floating plants. I use 3 types of plants in my aquarium. It's in the foreground, it's Eleucharis pusilla, then I have of course the Java moss, and I have coral moss that grows on some wood and that reaches up to the surface. If it comes to water temperature, well, I don't use any heaters in none of my nano tanks. So naturally the temperature goes up during the day and it drops a little bit during the night. Also, it is seasonal. We have winter here, so the temperature in the house is a little bit lower, and in summer it's naturally a little bit higher. So what would I recommend? You can go as low as 65 Fahrenheit or as high as 80 Fahrenheit. That's about 22 to 25 degrees Celsius. In the natural habitats, these fish feed on plant matter, small invertebrates and zooplankton. In the aquarium they take all kinds of food, although they can develop preferences for certain foods. For example, high quality food granulate is well received, but also live and frozen food. Artemia, Cyclops, Daphnia, mosquito larvae, tubifex and flake food. I feed at least 1 to 2 times live food in the week. If we talk about size, in the aquarium they can reach 2 to 2.5 centimeters, that's about 0.8 to 1 inch. In nature they usually don't grow that big, and also when we talk about the age, they reach about 3 to 4 years in nature and approx 5 years in the aquarium. When looking at a group of these Danios, you will likely notice the difference in coloration between individuals. This is because they have sexual dimorphism. That means that males and females look different. The males are usually thinner and often more vibrant in color, especially on the tail, whereas females are slightly duller and more round in shape. The most distinctive part on this fish is the coloration of the fins. All fins have two parallel black lines with bright red and orange coloration depending on the sex. Breeding Danio margaritatus is quite simple if the basic water parameters and the temperature is good. They will spawn in Java moss or other mosses on a daily basis, and depending on the temperature, the larvae will hatch after 5 to 10 days. As the parent fish do not really go after their offspring very actively, you can net the larvae out of the breeding tank almost on a daily basis and put them into a separate aquarium. If you overstock, of course, with adult fish, they will start eating the eggs or the larvae though. Of course, this depends very much on the size of the tank, how it is planted, and the population density. For breeding, I would recommend a bigger tank and not a nano tank, full of Java moss and other plants, and a group of at least 10 celestial pearl Danios. If possible, keep the shrimp out because they can eat the eggs and also the larvae. Small fish and even the freshly hatched larvae need a big amount of tiny live food as possible from day one. If it comes to tank mates, you should be careful what you choose. I have usually other nano fish together with the Galaxy Rasbora. You can also add other tetras that don't grow that big, guppies, corridoras, maybe even killifish. Also, shrimp do very well with the Galaxy Rasbora, and snails, of course. I need the snails for cleaning the glass and the wood, and they do perfectly fine with freshwater invertebrates. In my tank, even the shrimp could reproduce. So thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!